Hi, and welcome to a new episode of NASCAR Inside the Race, presented by Consumer Cellular. I'm Travis Peterson, crew chief of the 34, joined by Luke Lambert, crew chief of the 77. The final race of the second round of the playoffs is in. The Roval lived up to all the chaos we thought with the new turn. Round 8 set, a little bit different maybe if you turned your TV off at the end of the race. 45 and 22 had a heck of a battle for the final cutoff spot. So a lot to dive into today.
Yeah, the Roval was no disappointment. You know, lots of chaos and a lot of things on the line for the guys in the playoffs. Let's take a look at what Brad Moran had to say after the race last night.
Well, unfortunately, when we were running the 48 through, it didn't pass the minimum weight specs. So we pulled the car off to the side and we allowed them to fuel it, which they already did. We let them fuel it again. We let them run the pumps to make sure all the pickup boxes were full. We give the teams every opportunity to try to meet the minimum weight. We also let them plug in the water and run the water through the system to make sure they're full of water. And then we rescaled it. It still didn't meet the weight. We backed it off and we run it across one more time just to confirm the weights were accurate, and unfortunately they did not meet the minimum weight. They are allowed a 0.5% of a weight break, which is about 17 pounds give or take. That is what they're allowed, and it was more than that.
Big controversy, big shakeup in the points with what happened.
So after every race, NASCAR does a post-race inspection on multiple cars in the field. In this case, they're going through all the playoff cars and a handful of the front runners at the end of the race. Those post-race inspections include the OSS station, which is the optical scanning station that scans the outside of the body, the underbody scanner, which looks at the underbody. Two key areas of performance. One of the other things that they always inspect is the post-race weight on the car.
Yep, and like you said, they always do the top 5, and in the playoffs, particularly the cutoff races, they make sure they get everybody, so that way if there is any of these situations, if the 22 is out and this happened, the 22 had to go through inspection as well. So they make sure they get everybody, which is very important. The key right now is this Rule C that we're looking at, the 0.5% of your car weight. And these are weighed without the driver. Everybody has a different rule based on your driver weight. But the answer comes down to somewhere between 16.9 and 17.7 pounds. So basically 17 pounds is the buffer they give you in post-race inspection.
Yeah, and so every car would have passed pre-race weights, and then we would have all done that prior to practice and qualifying on Saturday. After the race, when we go through for post-race inspection, that's when NASCAR allows that tolerance. That 0.5% of the total vehicle weight is intended to account for all the consumable things that a race car could use up during the course of a race. It includes engine oil that gets burnt out, the potential for brake pad wear. Many of the little things could just wear and lose a small amount of weight over the course of the race, but they do add up, and so that 0.5% is the margin that NASCAR provides. Why does NASCAR check these things pre and post event? These are the key performance areas that the teams are all trying to push as closely as possible. So, it's really no different than speeding on pit road. Every team is trying to be right up against that margin, and it's our job to not step across it. There's potentially unforeseen circumstances even with pit road speed if tires are different than you expect. So, in this case, the weight, they allow you a tolerance, and NASCAR's view of it is that you need to stay inside the limit.
One thing, I heard it after the race. I was sitting back at my couch, and all of a sudden I found out that happened from my wife, who was on Twitter, and so I immediately go to look at what's going on. And one thing that everybody was pointing out is there's a video from our car, actually, of when Alex went across those curbs, kind of shattering some stuff under the car and it flying all over. I think we have that clip here. Let's look at that. Right here's the moment everybody's talking about, because you see some stuff fly off the bottom of the car. We can see nuggets go frame by frame right here, and we can watch. You can hear it too when you play it with full audio that our car hit something. I can tell you, I didn't know about this in the middle of the race, and I didn't see any damage after the race. So to me, as we went frame by frame through this, I think it's probably a diffuser strike. Now, we're purely speculating here, right? But he goes right over those blue turtles. There's a puff of smoke. All this stuff comes out. It looks like it's kind of just floating through the air, something kind of carbon fiber splinters. I don't know that it's anything that would be super heavy.
So here's the standings prior to the ruling that happened after the race with the disqualification of the 48. You can see it flips things upside down, particularly for the 22 and the 48. The 45's still in. He didn't have to race quite as hard to get to where he got to, but it obviously puts the 48 on the outside looking in.
Seeing the way the points are, I feel bad for the stress that I'm sure Paul Wolfe and Billy Scott went through all race long. They think they're battling for everything they got, and now they're 20 points to the good. But in the middle of that moment, they had a lot of excitement, and we definitely need to dive into what the 45 did to get back in the race because it was super exciting. We'll look at that next.
The NASCAR playoff field is down to 8, and teams hope Lady Luck plays along in Vegas. Luck might be your only shot at the title. Don't be on the outside, be on the inside. It's NASCAR Inside the Playoffs on Trip TV and Max.
45 team had quite the up and down day. Won a stage, went to the back, had all this damage we talked about, ended up thinking he was within 4 points of the cutoff line. Let's look at how that played out.
Let's take a look at a track position graph of the 45's day. So across the bottom, as you go across this graph, this is just the laps counting down from start to finish to the end of the race. The top of this graph would be first place. The bottom of this graph would be last car in the field. So you can see as you move up this graph, you're in better running position. Looking at the start of the day for the 45, they ended up with really solid track position coming to the end of stage 1 and had the opportunity to stay out and win stage 1 and just bank those points that you can get from capitalizing in that moment. So I think it was probably a really good decision because it did put them in a position to be able to have something to fall back on if things went awry, and ultimately they did.
Yeah, when things don't go your way, you wish you had the points you could have got when you could have got them, right? And those 10 points are huge for him in the end of this race. Qualified great, end of stage 1, everything's going according to plan. Wins the stage, comes in, a lot of guys flip the stage like we always see at road courses, loses a bunch of track position, and I think that's kind of what stimulates his problems. He falls back down here to somewhere 25th range, and now you're back in the hornet's nest.
That put him right in the middle of the mess. Let's take a look at the video. He comes around turn 6, he's following the 19, he pops out and doesn't recognize what's happening in front of him before it's too late.
Yeah, big hit he took right there, but I think when we see this from his onboard and from the 7's onboard, you can tell he's kind of out of control on the way into that corner before the 3 even crashes. The 3 then stacks up the whole field, and he just has nowhere to go.
Yeah, you see, it pops out, and man, as soon as he gets to this point, everybody's stacked up. The 3 is blocking the outside 2 lanes. Everybody's having to check up, including Denny. Nowhere to go for the 45 car. He gets into him, causes some significant suspension damage that's going to really be a thorn in their side for a big part of the middle of the race.
Yeah, and honestly, the way that happened, and we watch it live speed right there, I don't know that spotters, drivers, anybody has enough time to react. You're coming through turn 6, you kind of off camber, you're a little bit out of control, you're trying to carry a lot of speed. He's trying to make this pass on the 19, and by the time he pops out, he's totally blind to the fact that the 3's wrecking. Then everybody changes their line. The guys were kind of always going a little wide, trying to carry center speed and roll up onto the banking through there all day. If you pause it right here, we can kind of show the normal line is not to be down where the 11's trying to go, where the 45's trying to go. These guys are usually out where the wider cars, the 71 and 19 are. But because the 3 crashes, everybody kind of does something different. I mean, you can see Chris Buescher's angle right here. Chris Buescher is not even at all what the race line is, but he saw the 3 wreck. He's trying to dip inside of guys and dodge the wreck. So now you just have this huge stack up. These guys touch wheels. It has to be because he just gets launched into the air at a very slow speed.
Yeah, you created a funnel. The braking zone to do the corner the way that it needed to be done would have started back in this range right here, way back up the racetrack. So instead of being able to brake here where he thought he would be able to make the corner and run around the bottom, he's stuck overshooting the corner and way too much speed to get and stay underneath the 11 and not cause a big incident.
So too late. He's 4 wide. Massive contact. He gets rolling again after this. So does the 11. Everybody's wondering are they going to have issues. I mean, this is the beginning of stage 2, so he's got a lot of time because at road courses when these things happen, they let all the cars get back rolling. There's no caution right here, and he has to milk a hurt right rear tire and a hurt right rear toe link.
Yeah, he just has to play the survival game, try to not lose a lap, and just stay into it until he has an opportunity to pit. Good news for Billy Scott and the 45 team is they have more time than normal to repair the race car, given the fact that it's a big lap, a lot of time under caution. They can take that time to work on it. You can see the guys jump in here in the right rear, and they're working on the rear suspension. Likely what they had fail was the right rear toe link. This is this small component right here which controls the steer of the rear tires. Without this link, it would be as if you had a front car with no steering wheel in it. So the right rear tire would just steer in and out all over the place. When this link gets bent, it messes the toe up, points the rear tires in the wrong direction, and causes big time handling problems.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily see what he was fighting when he was out there riding around waiting for this opportunity under yellow to work on it. But I think what was lucky for them is it was bent. Now, that doesn't make it an easy fix, but it is one of the few things you can do on pit road and you're not completely out of the race. So they're fortunate that it was just the toe link and not one of the upper or lower control arms. But he was out there struggling. Last place, maybe going to lose a lap. Finally gets this yellow, gets it fixed. He's got a lot of recovering to do, but they're at least, I mean, this is a championship fight right here, right? These are the things that you talk about, you talk to your guys about before the race. No matter what happens, we have to get the points, we have to get back in the race, and this is what the peak mechanics in the world that we have working on these things live for, is being able to go out there, thrash, get their job done, and get the car back in the race.
Yeah, this is a result of all the preparation that they've done to have the right components on pit road, have a plan in place, and be ready to execute when the opportunity arose, and they stepped up to it. So let's look at after they got their car fixed. So, they fought through all that. They got their car running good again like they needed to have the speed after struggling through it. Now they had some opportunities to make some strategy decisions that gave them an advantage and put them on offense at the end. Looking back at the graph that we looked at earlier, you can see that they're mired back here. They're spending this part of the race in the middle part, repairing their car, getting it running again. And then in the final stage, they've gained some track position. They're starting to move back up like they need. And then the opportunity presents itself with this caution that we get around lap 80. They've got a decision to make. They're moving forward, but maybe not quite as fast as they need to. They're kind of hitting a wall. So they make a decision to come down pit road right there. And actually, it's a pretty risky decision because they give up positions that are valuable points that they need. But they're relying on the fact that they put themselves on offense. They've gotten their car competitive enough that they can drive back up to where they need to. And that's ultimately what they did.
So right here is the green flag cycle. This is about when the majority of the field started to pit because it's in the final window of getting enough fuel in the car to go to the race. So that's why they pit there. They've made up a lot of ground. But the problem is right there, Joey Logano is running somewhere up in here, and he's not really losing track position. So they're very, very nervous. Are we going to get him? They go back through this section of the race, really get back to even. So they're still a couple points out. That caution comes out, and they decide, like you said, we got to do something to make this work. And they finally get a couple more spots at the very end. And it's just enough because I believe Joey lost one or two, and they gained just a couple more, and that's that 4-point split we saw.
So now all those points have reset. Let's look at the round of 8. 3 races to go before the final championship race. Let's see how it stacks up.
Hey race fans, Corey the Joy here. Join Ryan Flores and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Each and every week, Stacking Pennies. That's what's up.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week right here at Around the Track. Whether you are going to the racetrack or watching from home, we get you ready for all things national and regional level.
And we'll tell you who and what to watch for each week. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend at the racetrack, and Erica will help you place your bets to win some easy money.
Be sure to check out Around the Track every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Well, the round of 8 is here. NASCAR semifinals. The best of the best are going to go try to make it to that championship 4.
I don't think anybody's comfortable right here. This round is somewhat predictable as far as the style racetracks, but nobody has a comfortable advantage going into this round. The 33-point advantage that the 5 car is the most comfortable spot anybody has.
33 is a lot, and he's definitely sitting better than the rest of them. But Larson's had plenty of problems in the first couple races of each round so far. Really anybody's game with 3 races to go.
Yeah, take a look. We have from here to here, all these cars are single digit inside or outside of the cut line. So these are the top performers in the series. That's why they're in this round. So they're going to have to go out. They're going to have to win stages and win races to transfer. I feel like we're likely to see 3 potential winners out of this group of cars transferring to the final round. So everybody's going to be at the top of their game.
Yeah, you talk about the top of the top. I think one interesting nugget is everybody other than Joey Logano was in the top 8 in points at the end of the regular season. So chaos rounds, road courses, speedways, everything we saw, you still ended up with the top 8 from the entire year, minus one guy who also won his way into the playoffs and now has 2 wins. And the other guy that we're talking about multiple wins, Chase Elliott's the only guy with a single win, best average finish on every track we go to.
let's take a look at the group of cars in the playoffs and where their average finishes were throughout the mile and a halves earlier in the season. So as you said, you can see here Chase Elliott leads the field in average finishes at mile and a halves and at short tracks. Super consistent. He's obviously going to be somebody that's going to be a favorite. But, the one that's really kind of shocking here, Kyle Larson, the most wins of the series, 6 wins. But look at his average finish. It's strong, but it's not anywhere nearly as strong as the 9. The 24 has a better average finish. So, you're going to look for hot and cold like what we see out of Larson. And the good news for them is they're hot a lot, they win a lot. So they're going to be expecting to try to capitalize on getting a win on one of these 3 races.
Yeah, we're going to have 3 of these guys potentially lock themselves in with wins, right? That's what we've been expecting. We've seen some guys upset. But I think in this round, your 2.5-mile tracks and your short track, very quintessential NASCAR, you're going to see these guys, because this is the bulk of the season, rise to the occasion. 3 will probably lock in on race wins, and 1 will get in on points. I think that's where Chase is the guy to watch for the points lock-in if he doesn't get a win, because he has the best average finish, and that's what he did all year long. You're looking at Kyle Larson like a guy who, like you said, the reason he's got a bad average finish is because a couple of those times he's going for a win, he wrecked out. So he's got to find a way to either get the job done and win or not get those wrecks for sure.
And knowing Kyle Larson in that group, they're going to be going for wins. That's what they're very comfortable at. You saw them do it again this weekend at the Roval. They came in, they had a pretty comfortable clinch scenario, and they didn't rest on their laurels. They went in, they won the race. So I expect them to be on full attack mode. The 20 car, Christopher Bell, he's sitting there and lurking. He's also a guy, much like Kyle Larson, where he has a really good chance at either winning or crashing out trying to do it. I expect him to be super aggressive and try to get the wins.
And the pedigree's there. You got Kyle Larson, won Vegas earlier in the year. Christopher Bell won Homestead last year to get into the next round. William Byron won Martinsville earlier in the year. Ryan Blaney wins Martinsville to get to the Final Four last year, right? This is the path. These guys are going to have to go for race wins to make it to the next round.
Again, we have the best cars making it into this round, and that just proves that this format not only makes it exciting in the moment, but it's also putting the best cars in at the right time.
We'll be looking for those guys to perform, maybe a couple guys rolling the dice. We are going to Las Vegas after all. We'll see if one of these guys can cash the winning ticket. Make sure to watch Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC.